Welcome! In this explainer, we're diving into a really powerful teaching method called the text-based instruction approach. Here at the IELTS Focus, we're always on the lookout for the most effective ways to teach language. And today, we're going to break down one of the big ones, text-based instruction, or as we'll call it, TBI. So here's our game plan. First up, we'll figure out what TBI actually is. Then we'll dig into the core principles that make it tick. After that, we're going to take a peek inside a TBI classroom to see how it works. And to wrap things up, we'll look at some really cool practical examples. Sound good? Let's jump in. Okay, first things first, what in the world is text-based instruction? Well, if there's one thing you need to remember, it's this. At its very core, it is all about genre. So what does that actually mean in practice? Well, think about it. Instead of just learning random, isolated sentences, TBI gets you to focus on complete texts. And that could be anything. Spoken conversations, written articles, you name it. The key is that it's always tied to the real social situations where you'd actually use that language. It's really about how language works out there in the real world, not just in a book. And this whole approach really stands on 4 foundational principles. First, you've got to be explicit about teaching the structure and grammar of a text. You can't just hope students pick it up. Second, and this is huge, you have to link that text to its social and cultural context. Why is it written or spoken this way? Third, your lessons, they're designed around whole texts, not just little snippets of language. And finally, number 4, learners get guided practice so they can use these texts for real, meaningful communication. All right, let's go a layer deeper on those core principles. The really big idea to grasp here is that language isn't just a big book of grammar rules. It's actually a collection of different texts. And honestly, this quote just nails it. Being a good communicator, it's not just about having a big vocabulary or knowing your grammar inside and out. It's really about mastering all the different kinds of texts or genres that we all use to get things done every single day. So here's how the theory behind it all breaks down. 1. Language is always connected to a social context. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. 2. The basic building block of language isn't a single word or sentence, it's the text itself. 3. Different social situations demand different kinds of texts. Makes sense, right? So, 4. Mastering a language really means mastering all of these different texts. Okay, so you might be wondering, what's the difference between a text and a genre? That's a great question. Let's think of it like this. The text is a specific piece of language, right? Like the actual words you say in a phone conversation. The genre, well, that's the social purpose of that conversation, so the genre is making an appointment. Basically, the text is the what, and the genre is the why. Okay, that's the theory. But what does this actually look like in a classroom? In this next part, we're going to talk about the roles of both the teacher and the learner and what kind of materials you'd actually use. Yeah, in a TBI classroom, the roles are pretty different from what you might be used to. The teacher is more of a guide, They're the one who finds the right texts and shows students how to deconstruct them, how to pull them apart to see what makes them work. But the learner, they're no passive bystander. They're super active. They take those models, they work together with their classmates, and they start creating their own texts. The end goal is to turn them into confident, independent communicators. And the materials? Well, if there's one word to remember, it's authentic. We're talking about texts straight from the real world, things like official forms, reports, stuff from websites or YouTube. You can even use texts that the students create themselves. The whole point is to tear down the wall between the classroom and real life. Okay, for our last section, let's look at some text in practice. This is where you really start to see how flexible and powerful this approach can be. I mean, just think about your own day-to-day life. You have a quick, casual chat with a friend. You call to make a salon appointment. You make that slightly awkward small talk in an elevator with a stranger. Or maybe you have a serious discussion to get some advice. Every single one of those is a distinct spoken text, and each one has its own unspoken rules and a specific structure. And really, the range of what you can cover with TBI is just huge. It can be applied to pretty much any genre you can think of. We're talking news broadcasts, songs, poems, but also things like job interviews or even sports commentaries. You can analyze formal letters, dense scientific writing, or even fiction. The beauty of it is that every single one has a unique purpose and a structure that you can actually break down and teach. And look, this isn't just some abstract academic theory. What you're seeing here is a real-world example of TBI being put into practice on a national scale. This is a list of text types from Singapore's official school syllabus from back in 2001. You can see how they've built specific genres, like news reports, directly into the curriculum. It's a perfect example of how this approach can actually shape education policy. So, what's the big takeaway here? Well, text-based instruction really changes how we think about what it means to master a language. It's not just about memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules, it's about having the skill to understand and produce the exact texts you need for all the different social situations you find yourself in. At the end of the day, it's about being a truly effective communicator out there in the real world. So that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If we accept this idea that language is, at its heart, a collection of texts, then that leads to a really important question. The question is, which texts do your learners, or hey, even you, which texts do you truly need to master to get where you want to go?